Hey, good morning, everybody. It is another episode of Fuck It Friday. Fuck It Friday. My name is Mike, if you don't know it, and Fuck It Friday is a video that I do sometimes, and it is one that generally is something that is something I want to talk about that maybe I wouldn't talk about in private, or in not public. I'm an idiot. I'm not really good at this. This is always a little bit off the cuff, but it's one that I maybe wouldn't talk about in polite company. But it's become something that I feel like I need to talk about, either because it pisses me off, I think it's funny, or anything else. But in case you don't know who I am, I want to say a little bit about myself, just so you understand my perspective. Number one, I'm a Christian. The reason why I'm a Christian is not because I have any kind of moral superiority. It is because I am a fuck up, and I have been a fuck up to the point that I just was in complete devastation, either because of things beyond my control, my reaction to them, or otherwise. I found Jesus. I found him. What I did was I gave everything up in my life, because my life was just a complete devastation. I gave everything up. I had no control. I had no desire for living the life that I was, and I gave everything to God. I gave everything to Jesus, and what he did was he took everything from me. He took everything, and he gave only the good stuff back. And I know I have maybe not heard the audible word of God, but I have been called. I had a thought from the divine, in my opinion, and that's how I am a Christian. That's how I know that I am. I'm also a potty mouth. I'm a member of Generation X. I curse. It rolls off my tongue. I just, it's something that I'm not proud of. So you know that. I'm a husband. I'm married to a beautiful wife. This is my second marriage. My first wife passed away. Because of my Christian faith, I really, really take this seriously. My wife and I share chores and responsibilities, and she gives me a certain amount of authority in this, and I give her a certain amount of authority in this, and this is based on what we believe is God's plan for us, God's plan that we want to follow. She mows the grass, I do the dishes, that sort of thing. She is generally in charge of the kids, and I'm generally in charge of how we make money. There's that. I am a father. I love my kids. I have 3 children, one of which is from my first wife. He is 29 years old. 29 years old. Is that right? Yeah, 29 years old, and all 3 of them have been a blessing. They've been a marked. Each one in their own way has been. It's changed my life significantly for the good. I'm a ditch digger. I've been a laborer my whole career. I've been a laborer since 1989. I started working as a roofer at 17 years old, tearing off shingles, hauling bundles of shingles back up on the roof, and getting yelled at when I didn't do a good enough job. After that, got promoted to plumbing, and started out picking up cigarette butts in the parking lot. Once I got good enough at that, they promoted me to ditch digger. I was really good at it. Had half of my plumbing apprenticeship doing that. I've been a plumber since, I've been a licensed journeyman since 1999, been in the trade since 1996. And, to this day, I still dig ditches. On Monday, I just got finished filling in, the ditches that I just last dug. So I am a ditch digger. I am proud of it. I believe that there is, it's not about what I believe. It's just, it's historically accurate that the world, humans can't build, create, do anything of any value without digging a trench first. Civilization, one of the first things, is cultivation, is agriculture. Roads is another one. coming together and building homes, building places of shelter, all require getting a shovel out first. Everything does. I have more respect for people who dig ditches than I do anyone else. They're the ones that are, if a ditch digger dies in a ditch, he's not considered a hero. If a soldier in war, they say he died in the ditches, died in the trenches, mom gets a gold star, and a color guard funeral. Ditch digger, not so much. The unsung heroes, in my opinion. I'm a business owner. I've owned a business, small business, since 2013. What I'm going to talk about too, I think all three of these things gives me a very unique perspective on the things that I'm going to talk about. I think you should listen. I think anyone should. I think if you're a laborer, if you're a business owner, if you are a conservative, a liberal, a mother, father, to be honest with you, particularly academics, because this is a big part of that. Okay, I want to cover three. Points mainly, and I'm going to kind of label them based on how I, the level of irritation, the level of importance, and generally the level of irritation in my life. The sun is right in my eyes, guys. In case you didn't know, I got a screwed up eye. You can usually kind of see. That's one of the prices of tuition for this trade, because it was a work related injury that happened in like 97, something like that. Anyways, things generally give me gas. It's gonna be something that gives me gas, gets me going, or grinds my gears, and that's gonna kind of that's how I'm going to rate the level at which I place this first one I'm going to talk about. It just gives me gas, man. Every time I see this thing, every time I hear this thing, particularly see it, I have to walk out of the room. It just, I'm just going to make a horrible noise and just a terrible stink, because it just drives me crazy. So what this is something that I call Christian and meme only. It's kind of like being a rhino, Republican and meme only, but you're a Christian and meme only. And these are the people that I see online who pass along these memes that either will have scripture, or more generally saying, if you have the courage to post this on your timeline, and pass this along if you're, a Christian, or to whatever it is. And the thing that really drives me crazy about it is most of the people who pass these things along are either Christian at somebody, or they are Christian because it aligns themselves, or, chances are they're not Christian. The people who I do not see do this are pastors. If you're a Christian, you might be a good idea to submit yourself to the teachings of a pastor. Now, I can't think of anyone that I know of that does those, and generally their lives align with Scripture and with the words of what Jesus taught. Not all of them, but a significant amount of them. And so, if you're that person, remember that, yes, that God does have a plan for your life. He does have a plan for your life. Okay? So does the devil. Well, the thing you need to understand is the only way to get to heaven is through the Son. Okay? You have to take Jesus in your heart. You have to believe that Jesus is the Son of God. You have to be in a position and put you in a position to receive the blessings, to receive the instructions from the Holy Spirit, or Holy Spirit, some people call it. That you have the wisdom. You treat people right. And I don't see that. If that's you, really Think about that, because you can live all your life and you can post as many memes as you want, and you can profess all the faith that you want. You can still end your ass up in hell. So you need to think about that. Anyways, so that's about that. Pretty short, not a whole lot in it. Next one's really what pisses me off, and it's something that it grinds my gears. I mean, it gets me going and grinds my gears. It's something that I see generally in politics, and of course online, but everywhere, is name calling. And this is something that is just the most ridiculous thing, and I don't know, it just drives me up the wall. Because there's no value in it. The only thing it ever does, it never convinces anything to anybody. It only entrenches other people's beliefs. And the example is, and most, both sides do it, liberals and conservatives. I'll just kind of make an example of the conservative side. Maybe it's not a very strong one, but the one that I find most offensive has been one that's been perpetrated or used by academics more so than what you would even liberal, but mainly, I mean, they're generally of the liberal persuasion, but academics, people who who use their their degrees or whatever, or the prominence of their degrees to legitimize their arguments. So an example of what would be maybe one that would generally be spouted by the conservative side would be, referring to a group as or a person, not by name, but say a liberal genocidal, baby killer who is protesting the Blue Lives Matter and protesting against whatever, insert description of whatever it would be. That's an example. The one that drives me up the wall is the ones that are, uttered by, this is what I've got. I've got this I would call it an argumentative essay, written by Heather Cox Richardson, who described to me, this person was described to me as a historian or to one degree or another, and it was written on Substack. And in this argumentative essay, what I would call it, she has notes, or what I would call references, points of where she gets her information, and there's a lot of them, in here, and I wonder how much of this stuff is just ridiculous. Most of this is involving the defense package, the security package that they just recently passed, is 2024. Regarding the Ukraine, Taiwan, Israel, and let's see, what's the other one? There is another one here. No, China. Oh, well, that's Taiwan. Okay. So I'm going to read some of this stuff to you. The number one, this is one of them, and this is like the 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 5th paragraph. I don't know how many words this thing is. It doesn't look like it's much more than 500 words. Well, maybe 1,000. I don't know. I'll read this paragraph to you. This is the 5th paragraph. It says, aid to Ukraine has been stalled since Biden first asked for it in 2023. First, MAGA Republicans said that they would never pass such a national security supplemental bill until the U.S. addresses the need for better security at the country's southern border. Senators, including Republican James Lankford, Republican of Oklahoma, took them at their word and hammered out a strong border security measure, only to have Republicans reject it when Trump demanded they preserve the border security as a campaign issue. The Senate then passed the National Security Supplemental Bill without a border measure, but that was back in February. Although it was clear the measure would pass the House, Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana, has steadfastly refused to take it up. So I just kind of want to break this down a little bit. So I'm calling them, first the big one, pretty much the only one in this, is the MAGA Republicans. So we're differentiating that group from any other group within the Republican Party. And we wouldn't want to call them the opposition. That's not inflammatory enough. Okay, and so what they're doing is they're referring the politician who was, I think the senator who was, along with their vote, who was, who was helping them to pass the vote. I mention him by name, okay? Then what they do is they refer to the opposition as making their decision based on what Trump said and said, and that it was a campaign issue, okay? So this is their reason. They don't explain why. They make it sound that there would not be a border security measure had it not been for them requiring it. They wanted a border security measure. So first of all, I'm going to say, well, what is wrong with that? Why does that make you an extremist? Why does that make you a MAGA to want to secure the borders? If it's not valuable, what is the point in having a border? What is the point in having, the gates that control the influx of it? Okay. And so why did they do that, even though the bill was a strong border? It hammered out a strong border security measure. Why was that? Well, when you look at on an internet search, I have a hard time finding any particular reason why, other than Trump saying that he wanted it for his campaign. Okay, if you look far enough, the reason why they didn't do it was because it was going to allow up to 5,000 immigrants crossing a day before they closed down the borders. And the biggest proponent of it was Ted Cruz. That state is who shared the border with Mexico the most. And I don't remember the math, but 5,000 times 365. I think that's a pretty good reason not to reject it. Okay, I think it's very, very. It's not. That's a pretty good reason. And I don't see that. I think that's a bunch of crap. Let's go on to the next one. Meanwhile, countries around the globe have been stepping into the breach, providing funds and weapons to Ukraine regarding, this is passing bills that regard the funding package to help for the wars that are going on, potential wars that are going on. I mean, countries around the globe, they've been stepping into the breach, providing funds and weapons for Ukraine's war efforts, and it was it has faltered without U.S. war material. That's what they're wanting. They're wanting war material. Okay? And suddenly the dam has broken. The MAGA extremists who oppose aid to Ukraine expressed anger over the measure's passage. But outside of that group, there was a bipartisan relief and mutual congratulations. The chair of Foreign Affairs Committee, Representative Mike McCall, who is a representative of Texas, who has been vocal in his belief that Republicans has fallen prey to Russian propaganda. Compared today's vote to the period of World War II when British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain to appease a dictator Adolf Hitler in 1938 by agreeing to Germany's annexation of Sudetenland, appeased dictator Adolf Hitler to Chamberlain's successor Winston Churchill fell the task of fighting World War II. Okay, so basically what they're stating here is that because MAGA extremists expressed anger about the introduction of that bill, or the potential, and that they've fallen prey to Russian propaganda. That's the reason why. It's because the Russians. It's because they're too stupid to, have their own opinion, that it must be given to them by the Russians. Okay? And so they're conflating that with World War II and Hitler. So Russia is going to annex, or not annex, but to invade Ukraine, and that's their bid to invade the rest of Western Europe. And if you don't agree with that, then you're essentially, siding with the Russians. Okay. This is a speech before the vote by Mike McCall. Our adversaries are watching us here today, and history will judge us on our actions here today, McCall said. So we deliberate on this vote. As we deliberate on this vote, you have to ask yourself, am I a Chamberlain or a Churchill? So obviously if you don't vote for that bill, then you're basically capitulating to Hitler. The same. So, here we go. The people who oppose it are MAGA extremists, right? Everybody else who's going along the lines are by name Michael McCall. Okay, now let's go on to our next one. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat of New York, said for months, the national security priorities of the American people have been obstructed by pro-Putin extremists, determined to let Russia win. They're compromising national security because they're determined to let Russia win. A bipartisan coalition of Democrats and Republicans, so not, there's no, just Democrats and Republicans, has risen up to work together and ensure that we are getting the national security legislation important to the American people. It's important to the American people, and we need to get it over the finish line. Now let's move on. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin also released a statement welcoming the passage of the measure. This bipartisan legislation will allow the department to serve life-saving security assistance to help Ukraine defend itself. What's life-saving security assistance? I wonder what that is. Maybe military weapons or munitions from Russia's aggression. Support Israel's defense from Iran and its proxies, and increase the flow of urgently needed humanitarian aid to suffering Palestinians in Gaza. He wrote, an important investment in America's future. This is an investment in America's future. Here's another one. Okay. This is going to be kind of both. President Joe Biden said that members of both parties in the House voted to advance our national security interests and send a clear message about the power of American leadership on the world stage. At this critical inflection point, they came together to answer the call, passing urgently needed national security legislation. American national security legislation. Okay, this is important. National security legislation. And we're going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about this later on as the progresses. This is more about name calling. This isn't so much. I'm just adding this part into. I'll go back and read it. And that Joe Biden's fought for this month to secure. So Joe Biden's been trying to protect the country by trying to pass this legislation. All right, so here we go again on some name calling. The reiteration of the bipartisan nature of the vote, suggests support for the idea that the breaking dam refers to the National Security Supplemental Bill, but also to the power of MAGA Republicans more generally. So they're basically saying because of this, the MAGA Republicans are a threat to passing laws, that's going to preserve America's freedom. Then, Tom Cole suggests this interpretation in the interview today by Ryan Lizza of Politico. So this is Representative Tom Cole. I don't know that he's for this. I know he's pretty conservative, but he's not really. It's a balanced issue, so they're not. He's not saying either way. He's just expressing that as a. This goes along with their argument. There's some more stuff about Trump. There's enough about Trump. We don't have to worry about that so much. Okay, so since the Republicans took control of the House, Republican leaders have had to turn to Democrats to find the votes to pass crucial legislation like National Security Supplemental Bill, preventing the U.S. default and funding government. Republicans interested in governing and eager to protect the institutions of democracy appear to be getting fed up with the attention-seeking and bomb-throwing MAGA faction that refuses to do the work of governing. So if you oppose them, you're throwing bombs and you're refusing to work. And the only reason why anything good that's being passed is because of the influence of the Democrats, and that it has to be bipartisan. Goes on. The frustration might have been on display when the House also voted on a fifth measure, a border bill extremist Republicans demanded because it was considered under a suspension of rules that needed 2/3 of the majority to pass. The measure failed with a vote of 215 to 211. Aaron Reichland Melnick, a lawyer with the American Immigration Council Advocacy Group, noted that the last time the House voted on a similar measure got 219 votes. This time, fewer votes, even though it added $9.5 billion to Texas, Florida, and other states restricting immigrants' rights, right? So basically what they're saying is that they're just trying to demonstrate that, the support for this is weakening. I'm assuming it's to encourage the continued fight against the extremist MAGA Republicans. Another one. This is the final name calling thing, and this really says a lot. Okay, this is something happened back in 2020, and it was Hillary Clinton who was opposing somebody who spoke out against the war. Against not necessarily a specific war, I don't think. Maybe it was Ukraine. I think it probably was. Spoke out against the war in Ukraine. Democrat, Samoan, Hindu, was a member of, I think, their state legislature when she volunteered to fight in Iraq War as a combat veteran. This lady's a combat veteran. She's experienced war. She's experienced a government in her state, and I believe she's also was a representative of Hawaii. So, I'll read this to you. This is from CNN. Former Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton said Thursday The Russians are currently grooming a Democrat running in the presidential primary to run as a third-party candidate and champion their interests. So this is Tulsi Gabbard that she's talking about. The comment appears to be directed at Hawaii Representative Tulsi Gabbard, who has been accused of being cozy with Russia in the past. I'm not making any predictions, said Hillary, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who is currently in the Democratic Party and are grooming her to be the third-party candidate, Clinton said, speaking on a podcast with former Obama advisor David Plouffe. She's the favorite of the Russians. So it goes on to say that Clinton never names Gabbard. She never names her, but there are only 5 women running for president. Gabbard, California Senator Kamala Harris, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, I don't know, and author Marianne Williamson. And none of the other women have been accused of being boosted by Russia. Okay? She didn't provide any proof. She just said it. Okay? So there's that. So this is kind of where I really want to kind of pick this article apart. So they're conflating. Everybody loves that word, conflating. They're conflating national security, sovereign American national security, with this bill that provides funds to, number one, to Ukraine, which is fighting against Russia, to Israel, which is fighting against Iran, to Taiwan, who's in dispute with China. Russia's saying that Ukraine, is part of a territory that's being advanced by NATO. Iran, I'm not even going to say about Iran's a nasty, nothing. I mean, Israel, in my opinion, they have every right to be doing what they're doing. I'm not even going to say that, other than, that's going to be a war between Iran. That's, they're going against Gaza and Palestine, but it's being supported by Iran. Ultimately, I believe all these others are proxies, that go along with Iran. I'm going to have to stop this because I'm going to have to go to a job. But the third one is, Taiwan was always been in dispute. Was supposed to have gone back to China, I think, I don't know, in the 90s maybe? I can't remember. So these are the things, what they're wanting us to get involved with to protect American national security. Okay? There's going to be I'm going to stitch this together with another because I'm running out of time. Taking a little bit longer than I thought. Anyways.